Johnny Depp is back in a new period drama piece called Jeanne du Barry, and he hasn't been in a film since 2020, so how does this film hold up? And should you be checking it out when it drops on May the 2nd in theaters? Well, stick around and let's talk about it. Directed by Maiwenn, Jeanne du Barry is the life of Jeanne, who was born as the illegitimate daughter of an impoverished seamstress in 1743 and went on to rise to the court of King Louis XV to become his last official mistress. The film stars Maïwenn, Johnny Depp, Robin Renucci, Pierre Richard, Marianne Basler, and Pascal Greggory. Going into this movie, I knew absolutely nothing. The only thing that I knew was that Johnny Depp was in this movie, and the last time that I actually saw him in a movie was the Fantastic Beasts movie in 2018. I know he's made some TV miniseries, and he also made a movie in 2020, which I did not see, so I hadn't seen him since that 2018 Fantastic Beasts. So going into this film, I knew nothing about this woman, Jeanne du Barry, and the film, it starts off with some narration. It really talks about how she really came from nothing, and it talks about how she really goes from place to place, really doing different kinds of jobs, but she ends up pissing off a lot of people. She starts off with this job where she is working for this butler. He sends her to this church school, and she pisses off the church, and she gets ousted when she starts actually reading erotic romance, which really makes them mad. She then gets another job where she is a reader for a woman, and she pisses off her because she sleeps with her sons, and she's known as this prostitute amongst a lot of people. She has a marriage that doesn't really work out, and she ends up in Versailles where she meets King Louis XV, played by Johnny Depp, and they start this romance, and he has a lot of different mistresses, and he really just can't ever be faithful to anybody, but they start to rekindle in doing this romance in which they start to fall in love. Starting off with the positives of this film, I did like the cinematography. I love that they have different kind of nature shots. They show the palace, they show the French culture. You get to go into this French palace and you get to see their different costumes. Period dramas, they always have really good costuming, so I think that's definitely there. I'd love to see what they were actually wearing during those times. The hair, the makeup, all that is there. The French accent, because this is all in French with English subtitles, so if you're not really into that, that's how this film actually goes. I like the narration towards the beginning, even in the middle, and even towards the end of the film. We're learning about this character and learning about Jeanne du Barry and how she really came to really just going to Versailles and how she really goes from place to place. All those kinds of things really drew me into the film. I had interest in her character overall. The direction and the screenplay for this film, I wasn't really a big fan of it. I thought the first half of this film where they're trying to actually develop King Louis XV, I didn't think they really did a very good job. I thought Jeanne du Barry, she really wasn't developed very well. I thought both characters were very flat, and I was wondering why the heck they were actually in love. What did she actually like about King Louis XV? What really drew her to him? We only get one scene where they actually kiss. They don't really have a lot of romance in this film. This film is filled with a lot of random events that don't really amount to everything that really kindles their relationship. I really felt like they didn't do a good job of actually building that relationship. I felt like we got brief little moments where you're like, okay, I guess they like each other, but why do they actually like each other? Johnny Depp was not very good in this film. I actually think this might be one of his worst performances he's ever had on screen. I just felt like he was completely miscast here. I felt like he didn't know the French accent. He didn't know how to pronounce French language, and I just felt overall he didn't really bring the character to life as Louis XV. They definitely should have went with more a French actor, someone that really knew the accent and knew the word pronunciation. I think that definitely would have helped out a little bit. Also too, this film, it really throws in a lot of different random history. There's parts in here where we should be building a little bit more of their relationship, and we're going off on history about Marie Antoinette. They throw her in here, they have a little bit of romance with her and just certain little scenes with her. And there's also little parts in here too with the narration where they throw in little nuances where they're talking about a certain character that's in the film and they tell us certain information, and I'm like, what does that have to actually do with the plot? Maïwenn is probably the best here as far as someone that really is trying, despite the fact of the limitations of the screenplay itself. There is some comedy bits in here where I was actually laughing. There's a part in here where they actually talk about how they should actually greet the king, things to do and not do, and they talk about how you should never turn your back when you are walking away from the king. And they do this little thing where they do little tiptoes and they go backwards, and that really did have me laughing. So there is some comedy bits in here to kind of break up a lot of the things that are actually going on, especially with a lot of the dramatization that they're throwing in this film. But I just felt overall it didn't really always come together, and I just felt by the end of this film I didn't really feel like I knew them as a romantic couple. I just felt like they were focusing on other things and other random events, and I just felt like we never really got that big grasp on their relationship, on why either of them really loved each other as a whole. And there was just parts in here where I felt I was just a little bit bored. I didn't really feel like I was taken out of the film all the way, but I did feel like there were parts in here they definitely could have sharpened up the tools here and really just made this a little bit better in the editing room. So as far as the score for this film, I would give it a 2 out of 5. It's kind of meh. It's a little bit hard to recommend. I do think that a lot of my audience that watches my reviews probably won't watch this movie and probably are not interested. But if you are interested in this film, definitely check it out for the history alone and maybe look up a little bit about Jeanne du Barry. I definitely want to check her out and just find out a little bit more information about her after this film. I do feel like there were a lot of parts that were missing to her life as a whole. Definitely one of those films where it skims over a lot of parts, and I just felt overall I didn't really get enough of the character itself, and it's just kind of a very mediocre film that I can't really say to rush to check out, but maybe you watch on a rainy day. However, I want to hear from you guys. What did you guys think about this film? If you have checked it out, did you like it? Did you hate it? Did you just think it was kind of meh? And if you haven't checked it out, are you going to check it out when it comes to digital, or are you going to skip it altogether? Leave any and all comments down below. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you guys next time.